Yeah. You on?
Yeah.
Fantastic to have the Minister for Police and Deputy Commissioner Mark Wheeler here and fellow MPs at Willows. A number of months ago we had increasing reports of criminal activity around the shopping centre who came and saw me at my electorate office. I've been working with local police and security here, and we asked for a high visibility policing operation. That happened over Christmas, and can I say and thank the Minister for that operation, which is ongoing, but today he'll announce a new one to make that arrangement permanent. What we were hearing from shoppers and particularly business operators was that high visibility policing acted as a positive deterrent, reducing crime in this area, which I'm incredibly thankful for. So looking forward to the launching of Operation Unison Victor and seeing police have that continued high visibility in our local shopping centre.
Yeah, good morning everyone, and thank you Aaron. It's wonderful to be joined by the Minister and the local members, and also the Acting District Officer Chris Lawson this morning. So today is a really exciting day for Townsville and also the state of Queensland, in that we're here to announce Operation Victor Unison. And what Victor Unison is about, it's an extreme high visibility policing activity operation that we will run statewide. So we're running this operation across all of our police regions, in key locations and at key times. What we saw between December and February was Operation Uniform Theta, which is essentially the foundation of this next iteration of operation. And I do want to thank the government for their support in the funding for this ongoing and permanent operation. There's a funding envelope of $25 million, which we will allocate appropriately across the state and across those peak times. So what we'll see with this operation is really high visibility policing activities, particularly in high traffic areas, high pedestrian traffic areas like shopping centres, Willows and Stocklands, and also importantly our CBD in Townsville, so Flinders Street, where we see restaurants, retailers, shops, cafes, licensed venues. You can expect to see a higher presence of police. As we go forward, and subject to the passing of Jack's Law through Parliament, which is currently before the Parliament, we'll also see operations in our safe night precincts across the state. We have 15 across the state and of course one here in Townsville. And what we will then see is, subject to the legislation passing, is the use of wanding, so the use of handheld metal detectors to search people who are in those areas for any weapons that they might have. You may be aware of a really successful trial that was run on the Gold Coast for 2 years, so that will be replicated across the state. But we'll also add in our transport infrastructure and associated transport vehicles. So this is all about making the community safer. We're really happy with this ability to be able to get back to basics policing back on the agenda. We've had, as you would be aware, rising demand, and also some of the imposts of policing through the COVID period. Very important work that was done, but we certainly lost some operational capacity. And what we're able to do with this funding now is to make a real difference with that high presence and a greater capacity to do all of the proactive things that we haven't been able to do for some time. So I'll pause there. We'll take questions after we're all finished speaking, but I'll hand to the Minister for some comments. Thanks, Minister.
Thanks, Deputy Commissioner, and thanks for outlining how important this strategy is going to be. So the Palaszczuk government's obviously backing in the police service with this really important operation. A $25 million additional boost to the Queensland Police Service to support high visibility police patrols. Police patrols in areas which may be crime hotspots to reduce crime, to deter crime, but also police patrols in areas where there are high pedestrian traffic, to reassure the community, to provide support to the community, and to reaffirm the Queensland Police Service's key presence in our community of community safety and keeping the community safe. This is a significant investment and uses the force multiplier, which is the Queensland Police Service, allowing police to dedicate shifts on overtime in addition to the business as usual activities of the Queensland Police Service. These are shifts specifically and dedicated for this extreme high visibility police patrols. Operation Uniform Victor will support the Queensland Police Service in what it does, but will also reassure the community that the Queensland Police Service is there, the Queensland Police Service is on their side, and the Queensland Police Service is working very hard to keep the community safe. This builds on the success of Operation Uniform Theta. Operation Uniform Theta was a bit of a trial for this concept, and it had overwhelming success. It had patrols through shopping centres like the ones we've got at Willows. It had patrols in key locations right across the state, and it worked. Not only did it ensure that police were able to detect crime quicker, but it also deterred crime and enhanced community safety. So I wanted to commend the police for the work that they did on Operation Uniform Theta. It was so successful that now the government is making that style of operation permanent with a $25 million funding increase to the Queensland Police Service, and that will go towards supporting Operation Victor Unison as it delivers on the continued success of those extreme high visibility police patrols. Happy to take some questions.
How are you actually going to be resourcing this funding? What's it translating into? Is it more police recruits? Is it overtime for police? How are you actually going to put these people on the ground?
Well, I'll get the Deputy Commissioner to outline the specifics, but it is funding overtime, and that is a good use of the resources within the Queensland Police Service. That uses the force multiplier of the Queensland Police Service, a very effective tool in increasing policing presence, but the way that we can do it is ensure that those extra patrols are dedicated exclusively for these extreme high visibility police patrols. So it doesn't take away from the business as usual of police, doesn't divert police resources from the other key work that they might be doing around domestic violence or other community safety initiatives. So it's a very, very effective way of doing it, and Operation Uniform Theta showed that it could be very successful, and this Operation Victor Unison will build on that success. But it is coupled, of course, with the government's key investment in increasing the number of police officers around the state. So we made a commitment to increase police personnel numbers by over 2,000 at the last election. The pipeline of recruits is very strong. In fact, we've got the biggest number of recruits at the Townsville Academy ever right now. And overall there's over 300 recruits in both the Townsville and Brisbane academies. We actually had some tests last week as well, with over 300 people passing the test. There's some tests this month where we've got 500 people sitting the test, and just last week we also announced our international recruitment campaign where foreign police overseas will have the opportunity to come and join the Queensland Police Service on a visa, a skilled migration visa, with a pathway to residency and then ultimately citizenship. And already, so we only announced that last Thursday, and in the 4 days since, over 150 people have expressed interest in that. 4 days since we announced it. So there's key interest around the world in joining the Queensland Police Service, and that's understandable because the Queensland Police Service is a world-class policing agency and people want to be a part of it. But Mark, do you want to talk about the resourcing?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, and it's a good question. So what it is, the Minister touched on it, we certainly have a significant funding envelope on overtime. So these are police that are doing additional shifts. So for instance, on their days off, those police that choose to opt into this operation, and it's an entirely voluntary opt-in model where police who have a string of days off may decide that they'd like to do, for instance, a shopping centre shift, which would entail engaging with our patrons in shopping centres, business operators, retailers, restaurateurs, all of those people that you would expect to find in the shopping centre precinct. The feedback we have so far from our officers on the front line doing it, they actually really like doing this kind of work. It gives them, if you like, a little bit of respite from that really high intensity, going job to job, first response style of work that they do, and they do it extremely well. So giving them time to take a little bit of a pause, go and engage with the community, find out what community is concerned about, and just back to basics policing, that some of our younger police who've been sworn in during the COVID era really haven't had much of an opportunity to do that because of the tempo and because of the operational requirements. So as I said, it is an opt-in model, and the feedback we're getting is really, really positive.
Is that even including, the fatigue that we saw during COVID? And also, just to clarify, is this overtime? Does this mean police are being paid double to work these shifts?
Yeah, overtime does, under the industrial arrangements, does have an implication in terms of being paid more than what you normally would on a normal shift, and there's a good reason for that. However, the fatigue management, we have very, very strong policies and processes around that. So our local commanders will be managing that, and it's up to individuals also to manage their fatigue. So that will absolutely be part of it. Also importantly, our police liaison officers, our hard-working PLOs who are working in this district, they're also part of this operation. So we'll be deploying our police liaison officers with our other police personnel, and that also is a force multiplier as to what we can do.
And how long is this funding meant to last?
Yeah, so the current operation that we're announcing today, Victor Unison, runs from yesterday through to the 30th of June, so through to the end of this financial year. It will immediately roll into the next operation. But as we pointed out this morning, this is a permanent arrangement. We're funded $25 million. That'll stretch out a number of years. And what we'll do, the reason we're going to run this operation through to the end of June, whenever you run an operation like this, you want to evaluate it and you want to see what you can do better, what works, what's not working, getting feedback from the community, feedback really importantly from the frontline staff that are actually out there. And we've got to remember there's no cookie cutter approach across the state. What works in Townsville may work differently on the Gold Coast. So we want to make sure that we're bringing local solutions to local issues, and we're giving our frontline staff and also our district commanders the ability to direct these operations.
Just to clarify, when did Operation Theta wrap up?
Yeah, Uniform Theta ran from the 19th of December last year through till the 14th of February this year, so Valentine's Day it wrapped up.
And what exactly is different about this upcoming operation?
Well, there's a greater envelope of funding is the first thing. We're actually expanding it to a greater number of districts and a greater number of areas. Some of the tactics that we employed during Operation Theta, some of them are going to be replicated exactly the same. We're also adding some things, for instance, safe night precincts, and I mentioned before, subject to the passing of Jack's Law, which would allow us to do wanding operations across our 15 safe night precincts, which exist pretty well in every district across the state, and particularly here in Townsville.
Commissioner, one of the things we've heard from shopping centre owners and shops and so on is that they actually find it very difficult to prohibit people who know we're going to engage in antisocial behaviour from coming in. Is there scope within this operation for the police to sort of act proactively and maybe stop some of those known individuals?
Yeah, that's what this operation's all about, and there are common law arrangements around refusing entry to certain people to your business if there's been a history of someone behaving inappropriately or behaving in an antisocial manner. So that's one of the reasons we have police in these areas, because we want the community, not only the people shopping and visiting and eating here, but also the business operators to feel confident that they can operate their business, that they can make a living. We want everyone to be able to make a living without having to worry about items being stolen from their shops, and also where they legitimately refuse entry to someone, we'll be certainly there in this operation to assist them.
It sounds like this operation does have a focus on shopping centres, but we know crime is still continuing on the street. There were several stolen cars dumped and watched again last night. Our own cameraman was almost hit by a stolen car this morning. Will this operation still have police out of the streets and targeting behaviour?
Absolutely, Paige. This part around shopping centres is a very important component, but it is far broader than walking through shopping centres and having that high visibility. It is actually targeting hotspots, known hotspots, using intel bases and intel-based patrols in those areas. And also we do have a tactical overlay to this. We're here predominantly today to talk about community engagement and community reassurance and confidence, but there is absolutely a tactical first response operational component to this. Announced recently were the enhanced drone platforms that North Queensland's getting, Townsville and Cairns. That will be absolutely part of the operation. Strategic use of tire deflation devices. I won't go into other methodologies for obvious reasons, but there are a number of operational methodologies that we'll employ with police during the Victor Unison operation campaign.
Will the new state crime laws put extra pressure on police resources?
No, not at all. In fact, what we do is we welcome any laws that will assist us to do our job, and all I see is that assisting us to do our job. Sorry, you had a question before?
We've seen a number of incidents here in Townsville over the past week or two where the usual car thefts will also involve significant violence. There was a carjacking last night, break and enter a few nights ago, and of course the carjacking in Birkin. Are you concerned that the strategy seems to be changing for these car thieves, that they seem to be full willing to engage in violence?
Well, firstly, we absolutely empathise with anyone who's been a victim of crime or impacted by any crime at all. We absolutely condemn that kind of behaviour. It's nothing more than criminal cowardice when we see these events occur. And when we see escalations where violence, physical violence is used, of course it is a concern. What we do know is it's a small number of people who commit these extreme offences. You will generally see the police in Townsville. They will swing into operation extremely quickly. They will identify the offenders. They will locate the offenders, they will lock the offenders up, they'll object to their bail, and they'll do everything they can to hold them in custody. And I do commend our police for that, because while we're all in better sleep, 24/7 our police in Townsville and indeed across the state are out there keeping us safe. But yes, I am concerned when I see elevated levels of violence in particular.
And just in relation to that incident last night and the burnt-out car this morning that police believe are linked to it, there were a few eyewitnesses in that area in Vincent and Gulliver who said that it took a considerable amount of time for the police to respond to those burnt-out cars even before they were being driven around and moving around that Cambridge Street area. Are you confident that the police response times are measuring up to these stolen car incidents?
Look, we have to prioritise, obviously, jobs as they come in. There's over 700 police in the Townsville Police District. We've got growth being delivered and on the way. The far north, the northern region itself, which comprises the Townsville Police District and Mount Isa Police District, will receive 150 additional policing growth till the year of 2025. And there will be times where operational priorities and other operational aspects will impede our ability to get to a job really quickly. But unfortunately that's been the case since 1864. Since we're an organisation, we've always had to prioritise jobs. Of course we put jobs where personal safety is in immediate danger, they are the priority. But we get to every job that we can as quickly as we can. So yeah, I'm confident with what we have on the ground here. I'm really confident with the tactics the police employ on the ground. One thing about the police in Townsville, all of us, we all live here, it's our community. So we want to do everything we can to keep our community safe because we're part of this community.
Minister, what do you have to say to those victims of crime who are telling us that they're living, I guess, their lives and nights in fear, especially last night when they were experiencing those stolen cars and people were trying to break into their homes?
Yeah. Well, it's right for them to be concerned because community safety is important. It's important to them, it's important to their neighbours, it's important to the government. And that is why we're supporting operations like this one. It's why we're increasing police resources and why last week we introduced new laws into the Parliament which will deal stronger consequences, stronger penalties to those serious repeat offenders, and to also assist the police in the work that they do around arresting those offenders. So, you know, the government hears those people, the government supports those people, and we want to achieve what everyone wants, and that is a safer community.
Minister, we've got more police on the ground and more kids locked up, but still there is a youth crime crisis. What is the missing piece here?
Well, the causes of crime are complex. It's a wicked problem. A lot of the people who are in the criminal justice system are there because of generational issues, not because of something that's happened, you know, last week or last year. So it's a very complex issue to address. But just because it's complex doesn't mean that it's not worth trying, it's not worth doing more. And certainly what we've done in the last week around those stronger laws, those targeted, more severe consequences for serious repeat offenders, the government believes will go some way further to addressing community concern, but also enhancing community safety and holding those who wish to cause harm to the community even more accountable for their actions. But certainly the resourcing that we've announced for the police as well is all around not only apprehending offenders, but being in a place where we can intervene earlier maybe divert people from the criminal justice system. There's also a suite of other initiatives which are being delivered by other agencies like the Department of Youth Justice, and just in the recent suite of additional resourcing that was announced, hundreds of millions of dollars extra going towards those initiatives to support early intervention and diversion from the criminal justice system to address the challenges and the complex causes before they manifest themselves into criminal offending.
With those stolen cars last night as well, they seem to be dumped and tortured in the same spots. Is it acceptable that there are common dumping grounds for these cars? How will the new youth justice laws actually stop this?
Yeah. Well, certainly one of the focuses of the new youth justice laws is more severe consequences for the most severe recidivist offenders. So that will ultimately lead to those offenders being held in custody on sentence for longer. But it's not just holding people in custody for custody's sake. What has accompanied all of these stronger laws is more investment in those intervention programs. So while they're being held in custody, exposing them to more structured, more thorough, more intensive rehabilitation programs. The whole focus here is not only on enhancing community safety more broadly, but also delivering more intensive programs so that we can impact criminal offending and can divert people from the criminal justice system eventually.
When will we actually see details about those two new detention centres that are supposed to be introduced with these new youth justice laws?
Yeah, well, that work's being led by other ministers in other portfolios, but the work is progressing as quickly as possible, and I know that in the very near future, government will have more to say around not only the proposed locations, but also what those detention centres will look like.
Can you shed any light on what might be taking so long?
Well, it's thorough work, obviously. These are significant investments by government. Building facilities of these kinds do cost. Tens and tens of millions of dollars. But you want to get it right, and that's why it's important